Welcome back to CPAC. Andy Mangione here on the AMAC Better for America podcast. Wonderful to welcome back to the podcast former ambassador to Denmark, Carla Sands. Carla, thanks for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
You know, we talked last year, and I know we're going to get to a couple of energy issues. We're going to talk about election integrity.
Right.
But if you could just relate what it was like being a U.S. ambassador in Denmark, just share that experience with our audience.
Oh my gosh, Andy. So it's such an honor to represent your country, this magnificent country, as the president's personal representative. And it was actually the dream of a high school girl to be a U.S. ambassador. And so it's also a blessing to be able to fulfill a dream.
Yeah. And people don't realize that as ambassador, you are you represent the president on all matters pertaining to that specific nation.
That's right, Andy. So we had three goals at my embassy. Number one was the safety and security of the American people. And so we worked to counter Russia and China every day. My team and I worked at the White House and stopped Nord Stream 2, that Russian gas pipeline. The only place it wasn't completed was my area of responsibility. We worked to stop Chinese-made telecom equipment from being installed in Denmark and other things, countering Russia and China. But we also worked to create jobs here at home. And while I worked as the ambassador, we increased our U.S. exports 45%.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Boy, you could use all that help right now.
That's right.
So after your ambassadorship, you made a run for the Senate in the state of Pennsylvania.
I did. So I ran for the Senate. Unfortunately, someone else got the nod and we lost. But I just want to talk to your viewers and listeners for a minute about that race. Because on Election Day in 2022, the Democrat candidate, John Fetterman, had about a million ballots banked from early voting. Mehmet Oz had about 250,000 ballots banked on Election Day. There's no way to come 750,000 votes behind in one day when in my state they had 50 days of early voting. So I'm asking all of your listeners to please consider practicing in the primary, voting early, and then in the general, we have to overwhelm the system with early voting. Whatever your state has in early voting days, I want you to use those days. We have to use every tool available to us in order to win.
Now, that's a wonderful strategy, and it has to be executed. The left is doing this. It's legal. They run circles around our candidates with the early, as you just illustrated with Fetterman. I remember reading about that. Even before people got out of bed on Election Day, he had 1 million votes.
That's right.
So you cannot stress, and not just in Pennsylvania, but across the country.
That's right. We just lost 3 special elections just about a week ago because the Democrats voted early, the Republicans waited for Election Day, and for instance, in New York, they had a snowstorm. Yeah. And so the left is winning because they're using the tools available. We also need great attorneys to fight for us, fearless men and women who are going to fight for the election integrity. And we need them now. We'll have their back, but we need attorneys to help us to secure the election. The left spends hundreds of millions of dollars every election cycle in order to pivot the election in their favor through laws that they pass in these different states, but also on Election Day.
How can we motivate? I mean, we're all on board. AMAC Action and AMAC, we represent our members, our 2.1 million members in all 50 states on many election integrity issues, including ranked choice voting. But we're part of a coalition that is the answer to the left's 20-year or 30-year head start they have on us in managing these elections. How can we motivate everyday Americans who are voters, who take their voting right seriously? It's a sacred, precious right to them, and they like getting out of bed on Election Day and driving and making their vote, making the X, letting their voice be heard. But we need to motivate them to vote early.
Right. You have the most amazing members, right? They love their country. They're about God, country, family. But we want to leave a legacy to our kids and grandkids that they have a chance at the American dream and have the opportunity, that American promise, that they can do better than we did. The only way to do that is to win this election because the left is so powerful and so relentless to take away those rights and to implement a kind of socialism, communism that is alien to everything our nation was founded on. So I hope that your listeners will go to americafirstworks.com, americafirstworks.com, and they will sign up there. We have a Telegram channel. There are weekly trainings by people like Congressman Lee Zeldin and Grant Stinchfield, and they can actually learn how to talk to their friends, neighbors, coworkers, and get them to vote early. And there's time in most states to get people registered to vote, to go to their home and help them actually put it in an envelope and put the stamp on it, or drive them to the election office where they can vote early. Many states have this. So check your state's election laws. And if you're a young Republican or you have a grandchild that's in college, get them to help with this, because young people can be our hands and feet where we cannot do it. But there are a lot of also early retired folks who can go and be a precinct committee man. They can go and be an election watcher or worker.
Yes.
So that they're there on election day. When I took my parents to vote a few years ago, there were no Republicans at their polling station. So there's no one watching on our behalf. This is absolutely the most important election in my lifetime, because the left is moving so fast to open our border, to sexualize our children, to start wars in foreign countries and dilute our treasure in our country, but also passing multi-trillion-dollar bills of Green New Deal junk that's really corrupting our country and our free market.
Carla, I want you to give that website address again.
AmericaFirstWorks.com. And you can also go to America First Policy Institute, where we're working to put forward in the present Congress and Senate America First policies that benefit every one of your members.
You know, you're speaking our language here, these kitchen table discussions, and that's all we're asking people to do. Have a conversation, go to the website, learn why it's important to vote early, and then have a conversation with the people you worship, perhaps at a Bible study, across the kitchen table, people that your family, your neighbors, your friends, why it's important to vote early, to counter what the left has been doing to our elections. And it's not like we're asking them to do anything that's illegal.
It's all legal.
Yes.
Use every legal means at your hands. Not to is, I think, a really perverse thing, because we are God's hands and feet on earth.
That's fantastic. Carla, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. I love your passion.
Thank you.
And I share it.
Thank you.
Take care. We'll be right back live from CPAC.